It's so nice to see you all today. Thank you so much for coming. I'm Anika, and I have a post-cancer coaching business called the Cancer Club. And so doing some sessions with Look Good, Feel Better Australia and New Zealand on all sorts of different topics. Super quick intro before we get into it. I was diagnosed with bowel cancer when I was 36. Stage 3 bowel cancer, and so I relate very well to what everybody is going through. And I'm a mother of 3 small kids at the time, and so there was I went through a 2-year journey of surgeries and chemo and complications and more surgery, and then putting some pretty serious effort into recovery post all of that. So I did a bit of a pivot after that and did a couple of coaching diplomas and trained in post-cancer coaching, because I found there was such a gap between finishing treatment and what's next. Because I found, and all my clients say the same thing, everything's so different, and it sort of can be quite hard to put your finger on exactly what that is. And so I help people figure out what's the new, what's next, and work out what that gap is for them, and just to kind of bridge that gap between, usually with treatment, and the new what's next. But a lot of that can kind of start during treatment, because there's a lot of sort of nuggets of information that, regardless of the situation, it's taking some time to really look inward and focus on these sorts of things and learn some new skills for personal development. So that's a little bit about me. And today we are looking at all things energy, which I'm really excited about. We'll look at the types of energy, where it comes from, how to get more of it, and how to maintain it. We'll look at some ways of auditing our own energy. If anyone has a pen and paper with them, and it's my fault, the notes have come through. I think they were sent to you this morning. So everything I'm saying, you'll get some notes in the little book that was emailed to you today. If you have a pen next to you, it'll be helpful. Otherwise, don't stress, don't run away to get one. We can manage without it. But everything I'm saying is sent to you in the notes. We'll look at ways of working out where our kind of baseline energy level is, obviously taking into consideration that we're all in different stages of treatment. So we'll take that into consideration too, and combine that with ways and tools of learning about how to gain some energy and implement these into our lives in ways that work for us. Like anything, it's a process, and it's something that we need to consciously look at regularly and take responsibility for, and to keep it up there. So everything is energy, and that's all there is to it. And that is my favorite quote. That's an Albert Einstein quote. He's saying that everything is made up of energy. We're energy, the world's energy, everything's energy. And it's kind of true. And I love the quote because it really sums up why it's so important to really understand our energy and make it a priority forever. I believe, I do a lot of study on energy, and I do a lot of studying on happiness, and among a lot of other things. And I truly believe that our true happiness comes from fulfilling the highest and most truthful expression of ourselves. And in order to do that, we need healthy, functioning energy. And so we need to understand the types of energy and what feeds it, and what grows it, and also what depletes it, because that's going to be a little bit different for all of us. And if anyone was here for our last session that we did on confidence, we talked about how the most important relationship that we'll ever have is the one we have with ourselves. This session takes that a little bit further, because the relationship we have with our energy is even more specific. So it's really, really important. So we'll start about understanding where our baseline level of energy is, to start with, and just deciding that we're going to take responsibility for growing it and maintaining it, and protecting it as well. That's really, really important. And with that, knowledge is power. So guys, just before we start, if anyone is wanting to turn off video for any reason, that's fine. If you need to go and have a rest, go get a drink, it's completely fine. I won't be offended, I promise. Just do whatever you need to do to be comfortable today. And if you want to take notes, you can. Just know that all of this has been sent to you as well, so you can have a little nosy at it later. So we'll start by understanding the 3 different types of energy that we have. We have physical energy, emotional energy, and spiritual energy. Now, all of these are really interconnected. One feeds into the other, round and around and around. And if something's out, it usually means something else is out as well. It is a roll-on effect. So emotional energy, that is our headspace. So things like observing how this whole cancer situation has affected me on all levels. Relationships in our world. Is something out in a relationship? Do I have friendships, relationships that are draining my energy? How do I feel when I'm with a certain person? Is my cup being full? Am I filling their cup, or is it just not feeling aligned anymore? What are my stress levels? How much stress, what's my cortisol doing? How is my stress from work, from not working, from all of the things that go into our lives in that cancer journey? Chuck that on top of it, and we all know how that can affect the stress levels around it. What's my treatment plan? Have I got that in place? Have I got my post-treatment plan in place? Am I comfortable with my care? Do I have all the things in place that right now at this point in time I feel like I'm doing what I can to feel supported? All of those things either feed or deplete our emotional energy. Now, things to remedy that sort of thing are things like counselling, psychotherapy, but again, that's not necessarily for everybody, and that isn't necessarily needed by everybody. Things like coaching, breath work, conscious relationships, or educational development. I always say most of us are walking around having lived on a diet, dare I say it, of other people's opinions for a long time. What is the thing inside me that I'm wanting to learn? What am I wanting to grow? What am I wanting to develop inside myself? There's a thing in there and I want to do it and I know I need to do it. And what's something I can do to kind of move the needle in that direction? And I can say if there is something in there that you're wanting to do or learn or grow or achieve on, that's starting to lean towards purpose. That is to recognize that as this is a calling, this is a purpose, this is a need for me to be happy, to have emotional energy, doing something towards that thing that's pulling at you inside. And I love seeing nods because we all have that, in more than one thing. The second type of energy is physical energy. As we know, the cancer journey has a lot to say about that one, doesn't it? So things like movement, cancer rehab, post-cancer rehab, during treatment rehab. And again, this is obviously to check with your medical team, but there are post-surgeries, physio, strength training, building that back up again. Walking, how much can I move my body now? I know I was shocked when I finished treatment at just how that had affected my strength and physicality. But again, that was the starting point. We start where we're at. Hydration, what's my hydration looking like? Am I happy with that? Sleep, again, all of these treatments and things affect that so much, but overarching, what's my sleep looking like? Food, and I'm no advocate of any diet. I'm an advocate of taking the time to work out what feels good for you. And again, cancer treatment notwithstanding, I remember feeling like I was hungover and 3 months pregnant for a very, very long time. But notwithstanding, what interests me with regard to nutrition for my body, what feels right for me, what is going to make me feel energized. And it's taking that time to even work that out, because most of us don't. We do what we think we should do. And I know some people are really interested in that during and post-cancer journey. Spiritual energy is the third type of energy. So we are talking a spiritual connection of your own understanding, and that's generally a connection to self at point number one. So things like meditation and mindfulness, which I know there are classes available through Look Good Feel Better on as well. These sorts of things to really connect in with the self and feel that centeredness, so that our, personal power isn't out there. We're not living on as I said, diet of other people's opinions, or things like comparisonitis and imposter syndrome. That's a whole nother session, but those sorts of things can feed into that. And and fun fact, by the way, this is a new one, is 97% of people, mainly women, but 97% of people do suffer imposter syndrome. And It's not okay as far as I'm concerned, and it's important to take that time to connect inwards and go, what do I actually really want? And what do I genuinely feel, irrespective of what anyone else has told me? So remedies for things like energy work, whether it's Reiki or energy healings, or hypnosis is really useful for working on fear-based issues, past traumas. It's taking the time to go, okay, am I still holding on to something that is just not serving me? And do I want to keep moving forward with this thing? And it might be a little bit uncomfortable to get rid of it, but then it's done. Things like reading, there is so much resource available to start exploring what your spiritual connection of your own understanding looks like. Personal development work. Podcasts, there is so many fascinating podcasts just to get the cogs turning and going, what do I actually think? What do I believe? What is out there? Having my opinions challenged or opened or developed. Things like feng shui, which is basically acupuncture for your home, creating an environment that's really healing and nurturing and flows with these. It sounds so bad, and it's something I recently really got into, and I have to say I've got an ADHD child, and I don't know if it's that, but it's definitely helping with that flow in the home. So those are our three main sources of energy. So we've got the physical, the emotional, and the spiritual. Now, I think everybody, you can probably feel into if you're feeling uninspired or just flat or frustrated or resentful with something going on in your world, it's probably coming from one of those areas, and if we can see how they're all kind of interconnected, that's where we can get our energy from. We all know how great it feels, and and again, with COVID changing the whole world, we realize we can work remotely. I mean, how amazing it is that we can do this remotely, right? And have people from all around New Zealand come together and to be able to have these conversations. But it's really important that we don't forget the connection and to have that connection, because humans crave it and need it. And we need to be doing that with people that nurture our soul and that we can give to them and they can give to us. And we really have that good, solid, healthy, loving connection. So if you have a think about that, you can probably feel where energy could be being depleted in one of those areas. So we'll do a little bit of an energy audit now. Now, if anybody hasn't printed out the menu, which I get because you only just got it this morning, I'm going to go through a couple of areas, and if you just note out of 10 your satisfaction level. So we have a think about the following areas and just ask yourself, how satisfied am I with this area? So rank it out of 10 according to your satisfaction level. Now, obviously, taking into consideration the cancer treatment will affect some of these considerably, so please be easy on yourself when you're answering. Now, the idea of this kind of audit is so that you can get a general overview of where you might feel drawn to make some additions or some changes to different things to increase your overall energy. And honestly, sometimes when we're really tired or bored or resentful, we're just really uninspired, not taking the time to do the thing that we know that we need to do, or do that thing that's inside of us that we're really wanting to try or do. And so addressing all of these is useful for just helping to get your baseline energy up to feeling good, because feeling good needs to be, that's the desired default way of being, or the default starting point. So we'll go through each of these, rank out of 10 your level of satisfaction. So the first is overall wellness, out of 10. And again, as I said, treatment notwithstanding, we're all at different stages. So overall wellness out of 10. Or satisfaction with my state of overall wellness. I'll just give everyone a second. And the second one is what I eat, what I put into my body. How satisfied am I with what I'm choosing to do, to put into my body? Next is my hydration. You got a little voice going, I should be drinking more water. I should be drinking more water. I should look at some electrolytes. How satisfied are you with what you're actually doing? And there's no judgment here, guys. We're not judging or beating ourselves up. We're just actually taking stock of where things are kind of sitting so we can make some changes. And fourthly is my sleep. how satisfied am I with my sleep? And then my movement. How satisfied am I with my movement? Then my headspace. This is one to get really honest with yourself on. How satisfied am I with my headspace overall? Just give everyone a second. And then my stress levels. How satisfied am I with my stress levels? And lastly is my faith/spiritual connection. How satisfied am I with that? And if it's not something that interests you, you can just put 10 out of 10 because you don't need to focus on it. But if it's, how satisfied am I with it? Is it something that might have been nagging at you, or something you would be interested in exploring a little bit further? That's the last one. And everyone, please feel free to ask any questions. We'll stop in a second and anybody can kind of make comment or add anything in shortly. So please feel free. I believe there is a chat box that you can type it on in and we can go through those as well. Sometimes I get carried away and I forget to look at it. Great. So if you have a look at your list, sorry, if anybody's been making a bit of a mental list, is there some area that you feel like, okay, my energy's really out because of this and this? I can see that, for example, I know that if my energy's out, my sleep's terrible. I'm a recovering insomniac. I'm putting into place things to help that, to heal that. But I know that that's a core depleter of my energy. Or do I know that my diet is a core depleter of my energy? Do I have, I don't know, gut issues or something that I know that I need to work on that's going to make a significant difference to my energy? Or is there some key relationship in my world that's a real energy sucker? Is there a friendship that's an energy sucker? Is there something that's bugging me? I know, I'm sure I'm not the only one saying, if something's going on with one of my kids, that's a real energy sucker. If I'm worrying about one of my kids because they've got something on, is there something like that? Can everybody start to see a few little areas that might be, yeah? Cool. It's nice to see some nods. And guys, it's a practice, like anything self-care related. We've got to book it in and make the commitment to ourselves, because that always puts a shiny gold coin in our confidence bank. So if you can acknowledge, I guess, one thing from each of the categories, if they apply to you, that you could add in that you would feel could make a pretty quick difference done consistently to your energy level. So something from about your physical energy, something to do with emotional energy, and something to do with spiritual energy. That's something that you could lock in, make an appointment with yourself and be consistent with over time. And this doesn't have to be going from 1 to 100. This is just adding in. We talk in coaching a lot about habit stacking. So it is just adding in one little thing at a time here, and it's small increments. So 5 minutes of reading about this particular topic, or 5 minutes of movement, or 5 minutes of, and it literally is just increasing those in really, really small increments so that it does become a habit. They say it takes 21 days to build a habit. Sometimes I think it takes longer, but if it's something that you know is really good for you, then you can stack something on top. So for example, a great option is whenever I book in time to go for my walk, I walk laps of the road because I know I have 2 kids at home, and I will put on a development podcast or my own coaching podcast at the same time. So I look forward to the walk now because I love listening to that podcast. Whereas if I wasn't, I'd be, oh God, now I've got to go and do that again. And it might go out the window and I make excuses. So that's an example of habit stacking. And there's lots of really cool ways that you can start to incorporate these things into your world. And again, done consistently. If there is amazing practitioners out there to look at supplementing, all those sorts of things, and supplementing. Obviously, that it has to be checked with your medical team if you're still on active treatment. But there is also people out there that you can see that can work supplements around treatment, and make it all work together so nothing's being affected negatively. And I know that makes a really big difference as well. There's just options, to start being curious about that. Would anyone like to say anything or add anything, or found something that's worked really well for them?
Can you hear?
Sorry.
Me?
Yes. Hi.
Hi. I was sorry, I'm a bit late.
Absolutely fine.
I think I'd like to do more of the listening to podcasts and reading more about what. Yeah, I don't do enough of that. I feel like I should be, but I think that would be really helpful, listening to podcasts and reading some books that would be of food for the heart. Yeah.
Absolutely. I actually should have thought earlier. I can put together a list if you like and send it through to the guys at Look Good Feel Better of some places to start. And because it's one of those things that you start, I wouldn't say going down a rabbit hole because it's not, but if you find a really cool one that resonates with you, as I said, food for your heart that resonates with you, you'll find more and more as you start looking, and it just opens you up and here and just allows so much more in.
Thanks, that'll be good.
Yeah. Have you been? Would anyone else like to say anything?
I was a bit late, so I'm not sure about everything, but I have trouble sleeping. I've been a long-term complex PTSD sufferer, and then got the cancer. So the PTSD has fixed itself, but I still have the habit of not sleeping.
Yeah, that's a great one, and it's very, very real. So you've had those two stacked on top of each other, and I applaud you for bringing it up. I didn't have the PTSD, but my whole life been an insomniac, so it's been something I just ignore it. But it's been time to take stock of. There is actually a very, very good sleep coach available that can go through that's got really good knowledge of all of those sorts of things and how they stack on top of each other to affect the neurons and things in your brain that don't want to switch off. And it's been a longer term thing, and that combined with proper supplements and things like that. So I'm not asking where you are in treatment, but they can take that into consideration and give you kind of a plan that will really help that a lot. So, and again, and it's a journey, and it's something to look into and really investigate, because it is possible. It is absolutely possible. And I never thought that I would get the sleep that I'm starting. I mean, I would be lucky to get a 6-hour block even now, but that makes the world of difference.
Yeah. Well, cool. I've got a sleep app on my watch, and even though I felt like I was asleep last night, I had 5 hours and 42 minutes. Well, that's a big sleep for me. Sometimes it's 1 or 2 hours. And I don't want to, now I've had cancer, I want this to stop.
Yeah. Isn't it? It's actually amazing. I mean, I with a lot of clients who say the same thing. It's not just with sleep. It's now I've had cancer. I want this to stop. And I love that you've said it, because people say that about all different kinds of areas of this. Whether it's relationships or sleep or certain things. I want this to stop now. I'm done. So
Can I just add something to that? Sorry, can I just add something to that?
No, don't apologize. Yeah.
Just a simple thing. It is an area that I work in. And I just want to encourage you all. How we talk about our sleep is really, really important. There is an intervention called cognitive behavioral theory for insomnia. And it's based around because our thoughts lead to our behavior, our thinking has a huge impact. And we will find this with everything with our journey with cancer, is how we approach things and we all know positivity. So just encourage you all to be wary of what you say about your sleep, because I know, and I've experienced it. I went through a phase where I would wake in the night and I'd think, oh, I'm awake now. I'm going to be awake for ages. And you know how I fixed that? It's,
No?
I got challenged by a psychologist friend, and she said to me, Claire, well, of course you're going to stay awake. You're telling yourself as soon as you wake, you're going to stay awake. And I had to change my thinking. It sounds really simplistic, and sleep is very complex, and I acknowledge that. But I just want to encourage you, think about how you're talking about sleep, and sleep professionals will tell you the first thing to do is get rid of your watches that tell you how much you sleep because they're inaccurate.
Yeah.
And because that's feeding that negativity, because you wake up and think, oh, I've only slept 3 hours and oh, my sleep's worse. And it's,
Yeah.
you know, we talk about the power of the mind. And I just want to encourage you, speak positively. I'm going to sleep tonight. And when you wake in the night, I'm not putting up with this anymore. I'm going to go back to sleep. And I'm not just doing that in a simplistic way. It's just one of the little keys because it's very complex.
Yeah.
I acknowledge that.
Bottom line, and this is actual fact, your subconscious mind does not know the difference between a real thought and a fake one. It does not.
That's right.
My subconscious mind, I've got a blue and white shirt on. If I say I'm wearing a black shirt, my subconscious mind hears I'm wearing a black shirt. So on what you were saying, when we affirm, even though, okay, we know our sleep's really crappy and it's interesting to know, and I've done this before too, before I learned what you were saying about not knowing exactly how much I am or I'm not sleeping. Sometimes we can focus on how much I'm not sleeping. And as you say,
and
it does become
so easy.
It is noisy. It is so noisy. Yeah, and it goes on and on and on. And this is, again, not just about sleep, about all sorts of things that we tell, the stories we tell ourselves about I can't do this and I can't do that. And there is so much more to this, especially when we're layering this on top of a PTSD situation.
Everything else, and PTSD, definitely.
And everything
else. Kettle of fish. It's like those days, you know, when you get up and you're feeling like crap, but you get up and you have a shower, you put your makeup on and you put a bright dress on and it improves the day.
Yeah.
Nothing's changed except what you're wearing, or you might wear a bright hat. Nothing's changed really, but it just helps lift you. And
sometimes the only thing we can change is our mind. And but when I really learned and embodied the fact that our subconscious mind does not know the difference between a fake thought and a real one, that's actually really exciting, because we can decide. And I've got a whole nother session we do on belief systems, but we get to choose every single thing we believe. It's just that some of these, or a lot of them, are ingrained for our whole life. And we actually genuinely get to choose it. So I try to go, I sleep. That is the affirmation, is I sleep. I sleep. And if I wake in the night, no, I sleep. So it is, and I'm by no means trying to take the magnitude of having other things underneath this. But when you understand, as I said, the subconscious mind does not know the difference between a real thought and a fake thought. It's really, really interesting. So if you just take a second to kind of ponder that, and that's why I did a lot of exploring with the idea of hypnosis, because hypnosis works, there's this, and I've forgotten the word, but you've got your conscious mind, your subconscious mind, and then there's another little bit in between, and I can't remember the name of it, but this is where hypnosis gets to. So it helps you, you're not having your thing or your issue removed, because then you're not going through the journey of learning what you need to learn. But it is allowing you to choose a different thought, help your subconscious choose a different thought and a different belief system. But I applaud you for acknowledging that the sleep thing is huge for everybody. I mean, I remember after cancer treatment was just...
Sleep's really complex, and I've had people say, what do I do? And it's like, there's not one thing that's going to fix it. No. Everybody needs a multitude. And I know when my sleep goes out, I think, okay, there's all these things I need to do that work for me. And, you know, there's half a dozen things. And that's like,
and you know what works for you. But I think it's a bit of, you probably agree, it's taking the time to do the investigation and get curious about what it is actually going to work for you. And I had one sleep therapist say, when you can't sleep, get up and go to another room and read for a few minutes. Don't read in bed, because that is telling you something. Again, sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. But my point is, it is a huge, and I didn't realize until I felt better from getting more sleep, that it's such a massive thing, complex and not at the same time. Now I go, that's almost an easy fix, but there's a lot of layers to it. I've just got a question in the chat. I feel my energy levels zapped from my food. I'm struggling to find things that work with my bowel. I hear you, sister. By choice, I would like to eat healthy, but this doesn't help. How can I make sure I'm getting enough energy from food without feeling like I'm running to the bathroom all day? How long does this take to work out? Well, it takes as long as it takes. I wish I could be more specific, and I am not a medical professional, but I'm a coaching professional. But I think that it is really great to see if you saw a nutritionist that does specialize in people that have been through cancer treatment, and I can send the name of one through to Look Good, Feel Better for you. I was speaking to her just a few weeks ago, and this is her jam. This is what she works on. She does actual nutritional and supplementation help for people that have been through the cancer journey for this exact reason. Because a lot of the time people want to eat healthy food, especially if you've had bowel surgery, it runs straight through you, and it's just this vicious cycle of not being able to absorb any nutrients. And there are ways and means of this. I won't give advice on that sort of stuff because of every situation's different, and I'm not a nutritionist. But it is possible, I guess, is my answer to your question. And I'm happy to send, and I'll just write a note. I can send the name of her through to Look Good, Feel Better for you guys to investigate. Her name's Amanda. She's really great, and this is her jam. And she helps people work on diets that are going for those exact issues. Yeah. And that's a big one for energy too. Big one for energy, because eating really well and being healthy, you need to be quite organised. You need to be planned and you need to be organised. So, yeah, anybody else? No? What time are we leaving? We're nearly there. Cool.
I'm interested in finding a starting point because we focused on sleep, but there are so many other things. There's cancer, there's Parkinson's, there's heart surgery, there's family bereavements, there's living alone, all that sort of thing. I want to find a starting point because I can't find it. And I can get by on 2 or 3 hours sleep a night, and I'll just come down to the office and do a bit more work. But I need to find a starting point where I attack this beast, because in my exercise score, I would be a 2 because of my Parkinson's. I had Parkinson's for 10 years.
Yeah.
And I need to do it in order and find a pathway forward.
Yeah, amazing, really good. And you know what, that is, most of the clients that I would get feel exactly the same way. It's just finding that actual starting point that does work for you, because there's so many things to factor in consideration. But again, it's a big topic to cover in a Q&A, but I think that it is starting with those basics. It is, if you're okay with 2 or 3 hours sleep a night and that works for you, looking at, satisfaction levels with these. If you look at your scores from marking out of 10, where are you least satisfied? Is there anybody else? We're just about out of time.
Just a quick question. I haven't been working for over a year now. I've been doing immunotherapy for the last 7 years for malignant melanoma, and throughout that time I was working full time. The thing is, I am actively inquiring for, applying for jobs and the likes, but I think, and I'm openly honest saying I've got this cancer behind me, and I've been on a break from treatment, but how much should you really realistically reveal in the first couple of interviews or the chats? Because it's kind of I know they shouldn't discriminate against you because I can work, but as soon as you mention I've got this background, they put up a roadblock and you can't go any further. Is there a kind of like a fine line as to what you should or shouldn't declare?
I didn't declare anything.
No, you're not obligated to declare anything in an interview at all. If you're not in active treatment, and immunotherapy doesn't count as that, you're not bound to disclose anything that you're not comfortable disclosing in those first interviews.
Because I am trying to, get back up and running, and I think part of my ongoing, even though I'm on a break from treatment at the moment, I've got a scan coming up at the end of the month to see where we're at. The tiredness is still there, but I think that's more not having a focus at the moment. And it's so easy to just go, oh, I need to lie down and have a nap and that kind of stuff. Whereas if I've got a focus, I've got schedule and that kind of stuff, I can get myself going. But then I don't want to overcommit and then crash at the other end. So it's just trying to find that balance. But then, if you have the interview and go, and they'll sometimes ask, have you got any health conditions that might impact your role? Then you kind of got to mention that. And
can I speak
Yeah.
from my personal experience? That will impact your role is a very crucial part of that sentence, right? And personally, I just started a new role a year and a half ago. I interviewed for the job 1 week post-surgery in the middle of my cancer treatment, and they asked me that question, and it was it was very difficult for me to say no because I didn't believe it at the time because of this energy, this well-being. It's about that first step. But I knew intellectually, yeah, sure, I can do the role, right? But I think because of this diagnosis, we all kind of, we're capable of less than what we were before sometimes, and I think we forget to celebrate where we're at now and the little wins. And so, yeah, you might not be as successful in that role as you would have been. You might, need a little bit of flexibility of working hours, but that doesn't mean you have to say, yes, that I have a health issue that's going to impact my ability to do the job at the end of the day, right? And so it's hard to really believe it, but I think if you can at least intellectually believe it, that helped me. And I had to pass a health physical exam. When they gave me the job offer, they're like, oh, it's conditional on you being able to pass a health exam. Can you? Because of course I had a headscarf on when I was interviewing. And so I think they were kind of like, getting kind of looking for me to admit that, and I just said, yep, no worries, I'll be able to pass the health exam. My grip strength was low, and but I passed it with flying colors, right? So it's about resetting your expectations a little bit, and I think what everyone else here has been saying of just that first step and celebrate that first step, right? That's my personal story, so hopefully.
Thank you.
Well done.
Yeah, that's great.
That's so great. And again, it's the confidence when you're going back into work. As I said, you feel fundamentally different, and because you're new. And that's what I like to say, as I said, celebrate it. I like to look at it as the fact that you're new, and that's really exciting. And so maybe we don't know what we're capable of now, but maybe it's more. Maybe we have been opened up more, and maybe if we're focusing on, we have our self-care plan in place, so we know what's going to be draining our energy. We know the things that we can do to keep it up as much as we can. And again, as you say, perhaps with that focus now that you're in a break from treatment and you might be feeling better, hopefully, that you are in a place where this could give you energy. If you're in a job that you're really enjoying and that the coals are turning again, and that could be a winner, could be amazing for you. But to answer your question, you're not obligated to disclose that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. No, thank you.
Very welcome. Great question. Yeah, I do a lot of coaching on people going back into the workforce. I should talk to these guys about doing a session on it. So it's a big deal. It's a big deal, huge deal. And even there's a lot of people that will come and go, I don't even know what I want to do now. I don't even know if I want to do that job anymore. It's just not serving me anymore. I'm not contributing anything. I don't feel like it's not giving me energy. It's depleting my energy. It's not filling my cup up. I'm not learning. I'm not growing. I'm not giving. It's a really, really unique place to be. I commend you for doing it. And as I said, you're not obligated to tell anyone anything if you don't want to.
That's great. Thank you.
No worries. Anybody else? Good. Cool. It's been so nice to see everybody. I've answered. If there's no more questions in the chat box, no, that's really cool. Well, we've rocketed through that today. I hope that there has been a few little nuggets in there that people you can have a little think about your energy, or there's some things that you may want to kind of focus on now, or add in, or take out, or work on that's going to get that energy to be a baseline feeling good most of the time. And again, it's like when we did the session on confidence, it's something that you need to regularly address to kind of keep it up there. But what I can say is when you do start feeling better because you're focusing on it, you won't want to not feel good again. So it is something that it starts to be a lot easier to put that time and effort into. because we all deserve to have our energy protected, and we just have to take responsibility for that. No, thank you all very, very much for joining me, and it's lovely to see you all, and yeah, thank you for coming.